Hey guys, I'm Josh,
I'm Jack.
and today we're going to talk about a Beatles album that's not so well known outside of Canada.
It's called Twist and Shout, and it's a Canadian album. This album was released on February 3rd, 1964.
What's kind of strange about it is that it's actually the second Beatles album to be released in Canada, although it's really a version of the first album, Please Please Me, that was released in the UK.
The famous cover photo was taken by photographer Fiona Adams, although she wasn't credited on the original sleeve.
It was described by British newspaper The Telegraph as one of the key images of the 1960s, seeming to promise a new era in which youthful energy and vitality would triumph over drab post-war austerity. The photo shows the Beatles jumping in the air at a bomb site off Euston Road in London.
It was originally used as the cover for the 1963 UK EP Twist and Shout.
So what's the deal with this bizarre Canadian album, and how does it relate to the more famous UK releases? Well, in the UK, the Beatles' debut album was Please Please Me. It was released on the 22nd of March 1963. Their second UK album, With the Beatles, was released on the 22nd of November in the same year. 3 days later in Canada, the Canadian version of With the Beatles, called Beatlemania with the Beatles, was released on the 25th of November, making it their first official Canadian album. Twist and Shout came out at the beginning of the following year on the 3rd of February 1964, and it was essentially a slightly different version of the UK Please Please Me album.
The main difference between Please Please Me and Twist and Shout is that the Canadian album is missing tracks I Saw Her Standing There and Misery, but two other tracks are added in their place, From Me to You and She Loves You.
So how does the record actually look and sound? After discovering this at our local record store, we were delighted to find we had a surprisingly good sounding mono pressing with very little surface noise.
Our pressing has the energy, clarity, and balance that are typical of great mono Beatles pressings. The instruments and vocals are well balanced, and the album is a superb listening throughout.
It doesn't have the power, loudness, and energy of an original 60s single, but it has a nice, smooth, clean sound. As you might have seen, ours isn't even an original 1960s pressing. It's a 1974 pressing with the orange Capitol label on the record. In one sense, though, that's great news for aspiring collectors and Beatles fans who are new to vinyl.
It means that you can get great sounding vintage mono Beatles albums for a reasonable price. There are a handful of this 1974 pressing on Discogs right now for $40 to $50.
Original 1964 pressings range from as low as $20 on Discogs, more for those in nicer condition, and chances are that these might sound even better, but we don't have one in our collection to compare against. One last note about the sound quality of this album. Part of the reason the first three Canadian albums sound so great is because they closely mirror the sound of the original UK releases. They were all produced directly from tape masters that originated from EMI's parent company in England. They were not produced from the often maligned US tapes. But if you'd like to know more about those aspects of the album's production, check out the excellent video about Twist and Shout by our favorite YouTuber, Andrew from Parlogram. It might also interest you to know too that although the Beatles' first LP didn't come out until November of '63, Canadians had already had plenty of chances to hear the Beatles on vinyl before that date. There were actually 5 Beatles singles released in Canada between 1962 and September of 1963.
But the Beatles' Canadian singles are something we'll cover in another video.
Thanks for watching!
And we have tons of new Beatles-related videos planned for the near future.